For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Orr here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's Tuesday practice of Utah week. The Trojans return to Howard Jones Field in full pads as they usually do on Tuesdays. Dan, what were your general takeaways from today's practice?
I liked the practice. I thought they're businesslike and a lot of bounce, a lot of peppiness. I think they know, they got a challenge. Utah is playing really well now. Utah plays well at home. The last two times USC's been to, Salt Lake City, two games they probably could have won, probably should have won, and didn't go that way at the very end. So, everybody was watching Utah the last couple of weeks, what they did with Stanford and Arizona. So, this is it's a good team and a lot of nationally in a lot of top 10 categories on defense for sure. Got the best punter in the country, that kind of thing. This is a challenge, and I think they know it. I don't think they've got to get, all fired up by the coaches or anything outside.
Yeah.
I think they know this is a week that really matters for the Pac-12 South, obviously.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Utah has a pretty good run defense, pretty good in the national rankings. And USC Martin, the offensive coordinator, given how USC was not able to get the run established against Colorado, do you abandon the run? Do you try and get more of a pass to run ratio? What did he have to say to that?
He's not giving up on the run.
Yeah.
He's going to stay with that run and didn't give up on it last week. I think they had 255 first half yards passing and 3 touchdowns, bing, bang, boom, and basically no running game at all. And he said, I don't look at the stats, and he can analyze it afterwards, but he said, we came out and we wanted to establish the run. And he said, I think we did a pretty good job in that third quarter. Unfortunately, they didn't, really get any points. And so, but they were up 21 and decided we'll keep running the ball. Even though, it closed up pretty, more than you would have liked it to. But, and I mean, some of the things you do ask about, they're pass blocking really well now.
Yeah.
I mean, one sack last week, not a bad effort at all. They feel real good about their pass blocking. The backs are blocking well. The tight ends are blocking well. They're not, going down the field and catching the ball. But they're blocking well on the pass game. But they just, they're not going to give up on it. This might be a week where you'd say, what if we came out and threw the ball 60 times? What would happen? It'd be interesting to see. I don't think they're ever going to go there, but it would be a question I would, if I were, putting the game plan together, I'd certainly be asking myself, do you run with a run game that's really not been very productive? The last, they count the Arizona game as being productive, but Arizona can't defend anybody. So, do you go with a run game that really couldn't get it done? Stanford, Texas, Colorado, or do you go with, with a passing game that can put points on the board, and you've got a number of really good receivers, and you can block the passing game? I think you need to be ready to do that Saturday. They ran the ball hard today. I liked it, some of the stuff they did in short yardage and the team run, portion, the goal line stuff. Liked, the aggressiveness, that they went and, went after it in team run. And the running backs, they always go hard. And they're, you can include Marquis Step now, I think, there's 4 of them basically that are, they're interchanging. But I don't think they're going to go away from the run game, even against a team that defends the run as well as Utah does.
Yeah. So do you think this is going to be a case where USC comes out and is going to try and out Utah, and if that doesn't get successful, then they'll try and do what they're successful? Would it be more productive to just come out with what they know they can do?
That would be my answer, but I don't get a chance to answer this. But yeah, I might say, what do we really do well? What can we do well against Utah? What might Utah have more trouble defending, and might go that direction? But I just don't think that's in their DNA. It just looks like they want to, back of their heads, it's balance. We want to be balanced. We want to be able to run it and pass it. They still, they haven't abandoned saying that this is a run-first team. even if it's not. I think that's be an interesting question to see how that works out by the end of the week. And I think Utah is probably not completely sure what they're thinking USC is going to do. But teams have definitely tried to stop USC's run, put the game in the hands of the 18-year-old freshman quarterback and see what he can do. That hasn't worked out well for a couple of teams, in the Pac-12 who've done that.
Yeah.
But we'll see what Utah does. One would think that they'll figure that they can stop the run, and how they defend the pass will be interesting.
Yeah, the interesting thing, though, is that there was a common thread when talking to USC's offensive coaches and some of their offensive players when asked about there's a slight feast or famine theme to USC's offense. And Clay Helton said, honestly, it feels like it's different each week what we can do on offense. That's something that T said, something that Michael Pittman said. Why do you think they're having that almost confusion or unexpectedness to their offense?
I don't think they know. I mean, I think they know why, for example, the run game breaks down, that they, constantly, I think T was calling them drive killers, that the more plays you run, which is what happens when you're going to run the ball, you're going to try to keep it for longer. The more they do, the more chance of drive killers. Whereas you heave it down the field, to Michael Pittman, and he catches it and makes the quick turn and beats his guy to the goal line. There's no drive killer happens, and that, those, whatever that was, 65 yards. That's boom, it's over.
Yeah.
So, to me, for a team that has committed 31 penalties in the last 2 games, the more of those you can get where you're not probably going to get a penalty on that 65-yard play, you might be better off than trying to, let's say a 12-play 65-yard drive where you're almost guaranteed, the way USC's playing right now, to get a penalty or 2. And now you're backed up, and maybe you're second and 20 or third and 15 or something like that. So it's until they stop committing the penalties, until they stop having a breakdown here, the physical beats. You wonder if take a shot down the field, and hopefully your wide receiver is a better athlete than their defender. And in most cases so far, that's been the case. A kid like Michael Pittman at 6'4", 215 is a really hard matchup, for people he's playing against, especially if they don't think he's athletic enough, to beat him. And he is athletic enough to beat him. And I think he was, they call him, what did he say? He said they call out there, "Hey, he's 6, you're slow."
Yeah.
And he says, I'll show them. I'm not slow, but he said, I know they probably think I am. So that's why tune in Saturday night and see what happens, because I don't think we can predict how this is going to go.
Yeah, as you alluded to, you and I both talked to Michael Pittman today about his career night on Saturday. But one of the oddities of that night is that Michael Pittman actually sat for an hour. He wasn't benched, but they put in guys like Devin Williams, Trayvon Sidney in to get more experience. But it makes you wonder why put them in at that point? Why not have that killer instinct, go up by a lot, and then put those guys in?
Yeah, I mean, and the other question is, he's having he had a 146-yard game against Stanford in the Pac-12 championship game, but he had 144 yards on 5 catches, but he was only targeted 6 times.
Yeah.
I mean, is this not the kind of game where he's that hot and they just can't defend him, that you target him more than 6 times? Probably the answer for that is yes, you should, but they didn't. But so he had 5 catches on his 6 targets and 144 yards and a couple of touchdowns. But that would be a game where you just say, let's go to our hot hand and just keep throwing him the ball until they stop him.
Yeah. On the injury front, it seemed a little bit more positive than it seemed coming out of Saturday. Helton said Porter Gustin's ankle surgery went extremely well today, so that's at least good news for Porter. He's on the road to recovery now. Elijah Griffin was out today, did not practice due to a shoulder injury. Palaie Naiote, always get stuck on that last name. He was in concussion protocol today, but Helton says he's moving through it pretty quickly. He was no contact today, but he did do some light running. Cam Smith also did some light jogging, but he's still limited. Helton said they'll probably make a decision on Cam on Thursday, but he definitely feels better than he did last week.
Yeah, I think Cam's a little farther away than I thought he would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think EA looks like I'd be shocked if he's not back. I mean, he really didn't. I know the concussion protocol is what it is, but he really didn't look like he was concussed after the game. He just did not have almost any of the symptoms.
Yeah.
Certainly didn't look like it today. But you do want him to go through the whole protocol and be very safe about things. But they're running him on the kickoff coverage team. They're not probably going to do that if they don't think he's going to be back.
Yeah.
With Cam, I'm not sure. I think he's farther away. So we didn't get to see him like last Thursday, and we didn't get to see what he was doing in terms of running. But watching him run today, he got a ways to go, I think, to come back. The rest of the guys, I mean, they got some of the backup offensive linemen, Clayton Bradley and Bernard Shermer, got back today. I think Raymond Scott might be able to. I mean, he was in pads and got a big cast on that with that fractured finger on his right hand. But the numbers, pretty many numbers in terms of the injured guys. But I think if they get EA back, a middle linebacker, they may not have to push Cam. I mean, Cam certainly wants to come back.
Yeah.
But they may not have to push him. They may not have to feel like, or he may not have to push himself at this point. Like Ruben Peavers came out today, and the first play they ran against him in scout, he ripped the ball. He took the ball away from the running back. He's just, playing like a senior, and to have those two guys, combined for 15 tackles, that was a great effort by the middle linebackers in that game. And so we'll see. But I thought Brandon Peely, having him there today, surprised me because he went out of there with a sling Saturday night, and he's in pads and practicing today. So I thought that's a really good sign too.
Yeah, Marlon Tuipulotu also was a full participant. I know Helton listed him as, I think, a shoulder or elbow. But as far as EA goes, I think after people saw his debut at middle linebacker, the consensus is that you need to have EA on the field. But when you asked Helton about that, it seemed like even if Cam Smith comes back, EA is still the backup middle linebacker.
That's what he said. What he said was it's really hard to learn two positions. Yeah. And Clancy, that's a big part of it, being in the playbook and all that. It's just EA is doing things that, I mean, you almost have to go back to Troy Polamalu to watch some of the things that the more you watch. I mean, I happened to see the game a couple of times in replay, and he got from here to there in the Colorado backfield, and you didn't know how he did it. I mean, it was like all of a sudden there's nobody in the picture, and the guy, the tailback's running the ball, and then the next thing you know, there's a guy coming in sideways, and the guy's cut down in the backfield, and like, what just hit me? And he can do some things that we haven't seen in a while. And so I would think Saturday against a Utah team that, like Colorado, was running the ball well. Colorado thought they could run the ball against USC. They couldn't run it at all. I mean, they had no shot at running the ball. And so you really do need to see him out there. He's so I don't know what happens if Cam's ready to go. I think Clay at least said, well, maybe some more reps for EA and maybe not as many for Cam. But man, he was about as impressive as you could ask for a freshman at middle linebacker. I mean, just really terrific job by EA Saturday.
Yeah. Given USC's history at Rice-Eccles Stadium in the past couple of years, it's been a tough go for them. But when you ask offensive players what they remember, they say that stadium is crazy, the crowd is crazy. How does that kind of fuel this team and get them at least amplified for that game?
I think we're seeing some of what we used to see, where the more that you had of that coming up, the more excited you want your team to be in terms of, this is really going to be cool. Going in there, getting to play them, great. The job is to shut them up, and the louder they are, the more fun it is when you can shut them up. I'm seeing and hearing a little bit of that sense of, this is really cool. This is a chance to, go in and do that to somebody who really going to make it a little tough on you for a while.
Yeah.
And the job is to take those people, out of the game. And the last two times at Rice Eccles, USC kind of almost sort of took them out, but not quite. And by the end of the game, both games, Utah wins games, probably neither one they really should have won. But USC let them hang around. Now the opposite happened here last year. USC wins a game probably Utah should have won at the Coliseum. So that's been kind of the pattern here the last few years. So we'll see. I would think you don't want to let them hang around, but USC's history is they let everybody hang around. So how are you, But maybe it'll be the 2 years ago. The big game was Washington at Seattle, and USC goes up there, led by Porter Gustin that night, and pretty much just took Washington out of the game and just said, we're not going to let you play, and we're better than you are, and shut that crowd up. So this is another one of those chances where if you can get the job done on defense, you can kind of take them out of the game, and then it's your game to decide, how does this thing go? And I think. Are they to that point? Well, we'll see. Maybe it very often just happens. All of a sudden, you're there, and we'll see.
Yep, we will see indeed. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Tuesday's practice. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely. Or for more, check out uscfootball.com.